a good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Stars of VANR, the first edition of 2016, January 4th, and a cloudy, rainy, dreary day in Las Vegas. But nonetheless, we welcome you to the sunshine of Stars of VANR. I am Aaron Phillips, John JPEG Style sitting in today. Mr. Cash is a little under the weather. Lawrence on the board with us today. And you, the listener, our phone number 702-483-4444. You're welcome to Skype in at Vegas All Net Radio if you'd like to Skype and ask a question. I'm sure you're going to, because I'll tell you what, I don't know anything, John, about finances. I barely can keep my checkbook in balance. And today's guest, we have 1/3 of the hosting crew. The other 2/3 must be counting their money or something in the back room there, Jason, and leaving you here to fend for yourself. But the crew of Financial Fridays, the show right here on Vegas All Net Radio, Friday afternoons at 3 p.m. They're in the house, Mr. JPEG.
And we've been trying a long time to get these guys on.
I know.
I mean, they're so busy.
Well, and I'll tell you what, we're lucky we got them when we have them, because now this is really when their season picks up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts getting busy now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After the first of the year, everybody's thinking tax season and whatnot. But Jason Thomas, one of the hosts of Financial Fridays, is here in studio with us, and his crew, his other co-hosts, are throwing him to the wolves to John and I today. We're going to share more about the show, about Jason, the host. If you have questions, we already had a question before the show even went on the air, which we'll get to, about the events today in the stock market and whatnot. But you know, this is a show that's based on lending to the audience to share more about our hosts, so that our listening audience gets to know more about our hosts and the shows, and kind of how the shows have developed over the time. And you know, Jason, we appreciate you taking time to be with us today.
I appreciate you having me. I'm glad that you have a show to profile other shows. I think that's a pretty cool idea, and I'm glad to be a part of this.
Thank you. And it's funny, you were saying before we went on the air, you're not used to answering questions. You're used to asking them.
Yeah, it's been we've had a long run. I mean, I believe we're going into our 7th year, so we've been doing this for quite some time. We were at another station, and I think the last time I was actually answering questions on a show was at the other station when the show was in its first year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been quite a while.
So you've been on the air, would you say 7 years, 8 years?
I think this is going into our 7th year. So yeah, we've been doing it
right
for
on the heels
some time.
with our show Vegas Unwrapped. We'll be 7 years in March.
Wow.
With all the different stations that we've been on. And, listen, longevity is terrific because it lends to a lot of credibility to your listening audience. You obviously have the followers. And, of course, I know in listening to the show on podcast and the archives, you guys obviously know what's going on and certainly share good information with your listening audience. And that's why you've sustained probably for as long as you have.
Well, I think that's the big part of it. I mean, a lot of times financial information, tax information especially, insurance, whatnot, is very opaque. It's very kind of hard to understand. It's not easy to, curl up with a good insurance book at night. So, we're trying to make it more user-friendly and easier to understand this information. That's really vitally important to pretty much everybody, because we all are affected by what's going on in the market, and our finances are so important to take care of our everyday needs.
Right. John?
So my question is, and without trying to appear too stupid, what the hell do you guys do?
Well, we do a lot of things. I mean, we're basically CPAs, and do various aspects of work in finance. I principally specialize in taxation.
Gotcha.
I also take care of people by understanding their businesses and trying to give them advice and ideas that they can implement to increase their performance and enhance their capital. Leonard Wright, he's another co-host of the show, actually pretty much the founder of the show back in the beginning. He is a personal financial specialist, which is a designation of the CPA field that specifically helps people with their personal finances.
On an individual basis as opposed to a corporation or a company? Or
Yes, on an individual basis, but he also takes care of companies because he can help implement 401k plans and pension plans and profit-sharing plans and things of that nature. So it's actually multidisciplinary in what he does, and he also takes care of people's insurance needs. He not only can help people with their investment portfolios, but also insurance products that can be a very important and valuable for them as well. Now, Scott Taylor, he works with Piercy, Bowler, Taylor, and Kern. He's also a CPA and a specialist in taxation in that firm. I'm also a chartered global management accountant, which is a designation that helps understand kind of the broader picture of businesses and implement those strategies and solutions as well in what I do. So that kind of is what we are.
Cool. Do you have anything to do with the IRS, or when you say taxes and?
Yeah, certainly. When you work in taxes, eventually you're going to get a letter. You're going to get some sort of
nasty communication.
some sort of yes, some sort of type of love note from the IRS that you're going to have to respond to. So, certainly,
okay.
That's all part of it. You have to deal with the IRS in taxes, especially.
And how to avoid having
getting a
to
letter
deal with the how to avoid getting a letter.
Well, you always come out at the beginning of the year after going through all your classes and all your CPA to get your updates on what are the proper regulations to follow and what tips you need to implement so you don't get anything from the IRS. And sometimes it's because of documents that other people have done, that are mistakes that are matching, not matching up. And but yeah, you try to do as much as possible to avoid any IRS communication whatsoever, but it's going to happen.
I need to talk to you after the show.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have a lead for you.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, it's funny because, again, John kind of alluded to this at the beginning, and you touched on it in terms of creating a show that really talks in layman's terms. To a lot of people, accounting and numbers and taxes is dry and boring stuff. So how did you guys formulate your methodology in putting a show together that really speaks layman terms in what is a very technical field? Because I can't imagine how many regulations there are that you guys have to keep up with, let alone every year, every day, every month, every quarter. Laws change, something changes. So how did you guys come up with this idea that says, you know what, let's do something that takes this stuff and put it into terms that people can understand?
It's kind of an interesting process. It was really embryonic. It started out as a show on a radio station, and Fridays was dedicated to finance.
Okay.
And they initially had like over 3 hours to have to fill.
Wow.
So they really needed to get it to be broad.
Yeah.
You couldn't just talk about one particular thing. So the whole concept, I think, came out of the notion that whatever affects your finances, we're going to talk about. So that's really how it originated, and that platform of being very broad, but also being interesting by talking about things that isn't just about the technical stuff. For example, talk about how to stay motivated, how to deal with adversity and be resilient. We had the psychologist from the St. Louis Cardinals on.
Okay.
That was very, very interesting. We've had medical pioneers on. Anything that affects your finances we've had on, and then how that is how the rules and laws apply to them, more in a general sense, in a mission sense. That's how we kind of developed our modus operandi, and I think that's been very successful because it's allowed us to be able to communicate about these issues in an interesting way. And not only that, as you get on the radio and you start talking a while, you just start learning how to talk better.
Right, exactly.
And so I think that has helped a lot too, because it's not it's not a good thing when you're putting your audience to sleep by talking about a dry subject. So you got to be more animated.
And obviously the formula's been working, like you said, being on the air for almost, for going into your 7th season. Obviously you have the right formula. And that breeds success. People listen to radio, in my opinion, for 2 reasons. 1, to be entertained, or 2, to learn something. Sometimes they get both. But obviously for 7 years, you guys have been educating the audience and giving them the information they need. Whether they use something with the information or not, it doesn't matter, but you're educating them to a better sense of self-awareness, hopefully of what's going on around them, and obviously the formula's been working. And to that, I especially in the topic of accounting, like you said, I mean, it could be dry to a lot of people, but obviously not, whether it's the corporate executives or the individual who's listening. You've obviously got the right formula and getting it out there to be doing it for as long as you have.
And the other thing that we've been able to do is we've been able to network and get a lot of people in the community involved in the show,
right,
and regular guests, and we've talked to people all over the world. And just personally myself, I've learned an incredible amount, but also understanding what's going on in Nevada, talking about what is happening in Carson City, talking to the attorney that's tried to overturn the American Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
He was actually did an interview from the Supreme Court. Just all of these things that are, very interesting, and being able to network with these people, have them be part of the show. It really creates a community. So it's really it's been a wonderful thing in all all angles, all different ways.
Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, I thought I heard you starting to say something.
No,
I'm sorry.
not yet. No.
So let's go back a few days. Why accounting? What created this interest for you when you went to school and you said, I'm going to do accounting? Let's give a little backstory about how you got into the field in the first place.
Oh, for me personally, I mean, it was kind of an indirect approach. I started out as being an engineering student.
Okay. Where'd you go to school?
I actually started in California.
Okay.
I started in Northern California in a community college, and found that to be just not my calling after I got into it. So went back to my original hometown into Idaho, and just started as a business major, and just kind of fell into accounting because I thought it was very interesting. I thought it provided a very important need, and I also thought it was the language of business. And I was good at it. So, all those different reasons, I kind of stuck with it. Now, you can go in a lot of different directions with accounting. You don't have to necessarily go into tax or auditing or anything else. But I went into tax mainly because it was a lot like engineering in a lot of different ways, because there's a lot of different nuances, and it's very rewarding when you figure out the right approach for somebody that can really make their finances better, because they're not paying unnecessary taxes. And that happens a lot.
Sure.
People pay a lot of unnecessary taxes because they just make mistakes, and they just don't think of good ideas to implement when they can, especially pension plans, for example. People have the option to implement a pension plan, and they have the money to do it. They just don't have the information in order to implement that the right way, or
you
the right type of
on a
pension
personal
plan.
level?
Well,
as
really,
opposed to with
personal level or company level.
Right, but I'm saying as an individual, if my company does not offer that kind of plan, I have the ability.
Yes, there are
to do
options
it on my own
for that. Absolutely,
Okay.
At least an individual retirement account.
Right.
So you can do that for sure on your own, and it's a good profession, and it's a growing profession. So I'm very happy.
So now, so you followed through. So you went back to Idaho. Where'd you get your degree from?
Boise State.
Oh, Boise
State Broncos.
There you go. All right. The only blue field is it blue still?
I think it's always going to be blue
because it's so cold there.
I guess something. They're the only field that's blue
in
the NCAA football arena. Now, how long have you been here in Vegas?
I've been here a long time because I had family here in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
So I've been coming in and out of Las Vegas since the early 70s.
Wow.
And then I actually moved here full-time at the end of the 80s.
Okay.
So
you're a veteran of the city.
To a certain degree, yeah. I feel more at home here than anywhere else. There's no place like Vegas.
All right.
It was awesome.
We're going to stop right there and take our first break. You're listening to Stars of VANR. Today in the hot seat, Mr. Jason Thomas from Financial Fridays, which you can hear every Friday at 3 p.m. in the archives on their show page at VegasWholeNetRadio.com. More with Jason right after this. All right, welcome back to Stars of VANR. Aaron Phillips, John J. Peck, Styles Lawrence on the board. 702-483-4444 is our studio line. If you have any questions, whether it's directly involving something that's involving you, or you just have a general question about finances or financial stuff, please give us a call, as Jason will be more than happy to take your call during the show and let us know. What I want to do, and as an example of really kind of talking how things affect everybody, we were talking about this before we went on the air, and Lawrence actually asked a great question that I think may apply to how the financial world affects people day in and day out, whether directly or indirectly. You know, we know the stock market took a big hit today of, 400 plus points. It went down on the heels of what was going on in China. They dropped out significantly overnight. Whether you have stocks or not, how does that reflect on the everyday person? What signs should they be looking for? How does something like that affect everybody on a day in and day out basis, whether they own stocks or not?
You know, it's really a very difficult question to answer because, you know, we live in a different day and age now. Now, before you wouldn't watch CNBC like all the time, you know, a business channel that's dedicated to stocks. And nowadays, you go anywhere and basically everybody's tuned into the market. Right. You go to your bank, it's on. You go to the Starbucks, it's on. So when you see these really sharp changes, people do have a tendency to emotionally react. And it's really, there's really a contrast between the experts and what's going on in, you know, people's minds just emotionally.
Perception.
So perception-wise, exactly. So I think the main thing is you don't want to necessarily panic over every single sharp change unless there's a reason to. And I think 2008 was a pretty good reason, you know, the financial crisis was a pretty good reason to get emotionally affected by that.
But that was a sustained fall.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it wasn't just a 1 day or 2 day
It was a
thing.
systemic issue. It was a systemic issue. Right. And I'll just quote something that I just brought. This is from a very leading investment banking outfit and their highest income strategist. And basically he says it is almost impossible to imagine that the market has not already priced in the most debated rate hike in history. And what it's saying here is that this is December of 2015. What he's saying here is that, you know, there's so much news for the rate hike, the Treasury rate hike, that the market has already taken that into account. Now, China has had an issue, but they've had an ongoing issue. And the effect of China to our market is not significantly huge, so they say. Now,
because we saw it coming, supposedly, or the people in the market saw it
potentially,
coming.
but the effect of the 400 point drop being a sustained reduction is not likely for it to continue because of China. We more likely have to have some sort of recession to have more of a systemic ongoing drop. It doesn't help, though. I mean, obviously it doesn't help. A 400-point drop, if it continues, obviously that affects consumer confidence. Indirectly, you're not going to be willing to spend as much from the consumer base. Could it slow down the economy? And our GDP is expected to grow like 2.5%, which is really not that good. It's more of our future has become less bad than that good.
Okay.
And so
less bad. Okay.
Yeah, less bad. Well, typically GDP should be running at 3 to 4%, and we're at 2.5%. That's not even keeping up with inflation.
Right.
So I think you just have to be cautiously optimistic.
Okay. Now, are people, are you seeing an uptick in people investing dollars more in the 401k aspect of retirement or IRAs versus going into the stock market? Is it just from experience with your clientele or with the other guys? I'm just curious what the trends are where people are trying to do things to save and protect their future financially.
Well, I think there's an increase in savings, which is a good thing, because before the crash in 2008 and 2009, our savings rate was pretty low. It was pretty dismal. Everybody had an overly confident view of the world, and they didn't think anything would go wrong. Now that the crash has happened and people were over leveraged, they had too much debt, they've actually spent a lot of that extra money to pay down debt.
Okay.
And now the savings rate has gone up. It's still not very high. And part of that, though, a good thing is that part of that has gone into tax-deferred type vehicles like 401k plans and pension plans and stuff like that.
So that's a good thing. So you're seeing more and more people
it's
taking
going
more
in that
control.
direction.
Okay.
If I don't have the exact statistics, but they're not like off the charts.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay.
it's more in the direction it should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people are taking more accountability for their own savings.
No
by
doubt about it.
Doing those kind of things
Yeah.
rather than, all right, here's my money, Mr. Stockbroker. Do with it what you want at risk of losing it.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's a big part of it. I think another big part of it is they're more cost conscious.
Yeah.
And
okay.
not willing to
overspend.
and go into
Or
debt.
take chances.
Okay.
Not as many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who invests in the stock market, the old philosophy, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is you're in it for the long haul, and you're going to take the dips like you talked about. You're going to take the increases. It's the long-term effect at the end of 20, 30 years or whatever it is that stock is sitting there. That, like you said, instead of worrying about just a one-day dip of 400 points, it's 400 down today, but tomorrow it could be up 800 points, and you're riding that constant wave. Is that philosophy still consistent for those who want to get into the market?
Well, that's a long-term view. That's the best view to have, especially the younger you are.
Okay.
Because the long-term investment horizon is undoubtedly always been the best investment course. You know, you've been able to get over time in the stock market 10% or so annual returns over a long period of time, which is better than anything else.
Sure.
Pretty much.
Sure.
Is the long-term view, see, what's happened is with all of the government intervention, the government intervention over the last 5 to 7 years has really kind of made almost unrecognizable to a certain degree. A lot of economists say one thing, and a lot of them say something else about what the effect of that's going to be. And we talk about that a lot on the show. We talk a lot about of how the economy is being propped up by the government excess buying of treasury bills, or indirectly putting money into the market. That's called quantitative easing. And so over time, I think long term, I think that's the best strategy. Unfortunately, there's a lot of concern that this quantitative easing and government intervention might have an effect. Remains to be seen. But the long term certainly will get through that patch. Now think about another thing. Now this is a pretty good point. I mean, back in 2008-9, I mean, the stock market was down to 8,000 or so. Now it's 15,000.
Yeah.
So
it's almost double.
Think
what it was
about
then. Yep.
that investment opportunity at the bottom of the market.
Right.
Not saying it was timing, but if you had started with long-term investments in that period, you would be
okay.
You'd be just fine right now.
Right.
And trading is another issue. We talk about that on the show. Trading in and out of the market using vehicles such as futures and options. That's becoming more of an acceptable strategy. And I think it's warranted just because of what I just said, because of the government intervention and using other types of strategies to hedge your bets is something to look at.
Well, you mentioned trading. What's your thoughts on these day traders, people who sit in front of their computer and make a living on, was it E-Trade and all that stuff? I mean, what's your thoughts on people like that who sit and do their own day trading on the stock market?
Well, there's a huge industry. That's that's almost a culture out there that does that sort of thing. I think it's very possible to make a living doing that.
Okay.
I've known of people that have. But you've got to really know what you're doing.
Right.
You got to be almost. A lot of these guys that do this had been on the market,
okay.
had been on the boards, had been in the pit, and they're just
so they're already
so
savvy.
good.
They're already savvy in the industry.
They're just so good, and they're so aware and experienced.
Okay.
And so they can do it quite well. But a lot of times day trading is not for the faint of heart, and people can lose a lot of money
to say the
in
least.
a short amount of time. I don't personally know enough about how to do it to even try.
Right. Interesting. I was just curious about that.
And you mentioned E-Trade and companies like that, and I think those are the companies that are making the money, not the people that are doing the trading.
Well, there's a commission that and one of the reasons day trading is so hard to make money at is you've got a bid and ask price, meaning there's a spread on everything you buy,
right.
plus a commission. Even though they're low, there's those costs to contend with while you're doing it. So you have
no
to,
matter which way the market goes, those commissions are still paid.
Well, sure, bid asks.
Yep.
Somebody that is selling is gonna there's gonna be a bid ask price differential on all those types, ups and downs, crossways and sideways.
Right.
So sure, it's added cost that makes it more difficult to make money.
Right.
Now, E-Trade, you can buy stocks for the long term too. You
right.
know, you can do that too. But yeah, that's what you got to know. You got to know your stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I would think you'd have. I mean, it's a job, and you have to know the skill set to be successful.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, if you're going to play in that field and on that platform, you definitely got to know what you're doing.
Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. That's for sure.
So I read this book a couple months ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Investment
trading for
now
life.
It's time. Yeah.
Right.
I think
Trading
I'm ready.
for dummies. Trading for dummies. All right, we're going to step aside for another quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how identity theft may affect your tax situation right here on Stars of VANR with Jason Thomas, one of the hosts of Financial Fridays, which can be heard right here on Vegas All Night Radio every Friday at 3 p.m. We got more right after this. All right. Welcome back to Stars of Vienna. We were just reading during the break. We actually have a winter storm warning here in Las Vegas from now until early morning on the 6th.
Please don't tell anybody on the East Coast that we got that.
Why not? We'll make them feel good for a day. Snow levels will drop from 6,000 feet on Tuesday to 5,000 Tuesday night. So, which is good. The mountains will get some snow in Mount Charleston, and what do they call it now? Lee Canyon.
Lee Canyon.
They're not even called the Las Vegas Ski and Snowboard Resort anymore. So
really?
It's
all
Lee Canyon.
just Lee Canyon?
That's what they're calling it, or something like that. So
cool.
They'll get plenty. They actually got a lot of snow up there early this year.
Yeah, they did.
So anyway, welcome back to Stars of VANR. Financial Fridays is in the house. Jason Thomas is going at it alone, and I might say he's doing a very good job holding down the fort for the other guys who aren't here. 702-483-4444.
And he is so relaxed. He's taking off his
jacket off.
He's kicked back now.
He's all ready to go.
Yeah,
well, it's
we didn't scare him at all.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
It's kind of
no,
cool,
we didn't. That's good that we've yet to have anybody run out of the studio with their head on fire that we scared anybody. So that's a good thing. All right. I touched on it going into break, and identity theft is off the charts. I mean, people today, of course, it's a big thing when you hear the commercials for LifeLock and everybody that has identity theft protection. We think about credit cards. We think about all that stuff. But really, what's the side effect that we don't think about when it comes to taxation or Social Security? What happens with all of that from your side of the fence when it comes to someone, God forbid, being a victim of identity theft?
Yeah, this is something I never really had to deal with before this last year. I mean, I literally, before 2015, I never had anybody that was a victim of having their information compromised and using it, in our cases, to file a tax return on their behalf.
Okay.
And it got so easy for people to basically take somebody's Social Security number. That's all they really needed, their Social Security number and their address. Create a dummy W-2, get it into the system, even make a made-up amount of money, tax money that they paid to the government through withholding.
Oh, wow.
And their system, now the government has improved this tremendously since then, since this last year.
Sorry, John.
So the class you just took in Aruba or whatever is probably no good.
Yeah, no good now.
But the government really had just a deluge of so many people filing these fraudulent returns that a lot of them were released.
Mm-hmm.
Billions of dollars of tax refunds were released to people that had no business getting them whatsoever, and so many people were doing it, and some of these people were out of the country. They're just doing it remotely. Even a number of the people I represent were victims of that. Now, the good news is that the government pre-screened a lot of these now. Instead of just sending the money, they're sending a letter to the taxpayer and saying, did you actually request this refund?
Mm-hmm.
Or in one case, they actually sent a refund check to the taxpayer because whoever had requested the refund weren't smart enough to actually make the refund go to their account versus the taxpayer's account. So
Oops.
Yeah. Bummer. I mean,
dumbest criminals. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
We'll be reading about that on a Thursday night in a couple of weeks during a weird news segment.
Yeah. So you have to go back to the IRS and tell them, hey, nobody filed on our behalf, and get a tax ID number in order for you to actually file your tax return electronically in the future, so they know it's you. So you become a little more protected in the system.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a huge problem. It's not gone away. I mean, it's still gonna happen. And I think one of the reasons it's probably going to happen is refundable credits. There's a lot of credits out there that you can actually get a refund for, even though you didn't pay any taxes.
Right.
Now, one of the things they're doing in order to combat the earned income credit, for example, and this is important, especially if any of the listeners out there are looking for the earned income credit this tax filing season, the IRS is not actually going to refund any of those until February 15th. So if you file your tax return today, you won't get your refund for your earned income credit until February. The earliest they'll release it is February 15th, so it won't be probably until the end of February, maybe March. So that's how this is being affected. So it's very important to protect your documents to not be a victim of identity theft or fraud.
Okay. And what's the best recommendation to protect documents? What would you recommend for someone? I mean, you're talking about like your Social Security card, don't carry it with you, put stuff in a safe. What?
Well, any type of document that has that vital information, make sure it's in some sort of secure, safe deposit box. Make sure you have copies of these types of documents in an encrypted file in one way or another, potentially on the cloud, on a cloud platform.
Don't lose your pay stub.
Don't lose your pay stub. That's very important. But also keep track and keep an eye on those other documents, like your medical records and the records that have your Social Security number on it. Maybe your bank statements. All of this kind of stuff can be used potentially to get access to your information. The IRS even had an electronic hotline or electronic online resource. They actually had to shut down, and I'm not even sure it's reopened, because people were pretending to be the taxpayer, and they were saying to the IRS, I need a new identity because I lost my original one.
Oh, boy.
And that person that was saying that was a person that wasn't even the taxpayer.
Right, was
so they were
the
like,
identity.
So they were like doing an end around to the IRS's own system, and it was, they're very clever. If you think about it, some of the smartest people in the world have been the best criminals. In the world. Yeah. So that's
savvy, and tech savvy,
and very tech savvy.
So I've heard people say, "Well, I'm not worried about identity theft because I don't have anything to steal anyway. If they steal my identity, I got $8 in the bank." So, but what I'm hearing from you is that there are other ways that they can. In other words, my credit's shot. I got $8 in the bank. What do I need to worry about identity theft for?
Well, I mean, one principal way could be just having to deal with an IRS error.
Yeah.
Because Thankfully, this doesn't happen as much. But I have a colleague, an associate that has a brother-in-law, and he actually was a victim of identity theft, and the IRS assessed him tens of thousands of dollars he never owed because they put in a bunch of fabricated income.
Right.
And it took him about a year or so to get that cleared up with the IRS. Now, he had to protect his assets for tax that was just made up. He didn't even he just didn't even submit it. Somebody else created it in his name. So that in and of itself is a good way to protect your identity, so nobody does something that just causes you a bunch of grief.
Right.
It doesn't. It's not so much about credit as much as just have
who
not
needs
having
the crap?
Not having the crap.
That's exactly. That's right. Sometimes they could take my credit. Anyway, all right, we're going to step aside for our last break a few minutes early because I want to make sure we leave time for the really important questions after break. You're listening to Stars of VANR with Jason Thomas here from Financial Fridays every Friday at 3 p.m. right here on Vegas All Net Radio. We'll be back to wrap up coming around the fourth turn here on Stars of VANR. We'll be back with more right after this. All right. Yes, I just want to reiterate that last message you heard. January 27th from 6 to 8:30, LVIP Dining will be hosting another event to benefit 3 Square and get our hungry children in Las Vegas fed. And for those who don't know, go to lvipdining.com. It's a free membership, restaurant of the month. For every meal that you eat from the restaurant of the month, they will donate 3 meals to hungry children. And in a short time last year,
for
John,
3 Square, yeah.
For 3 Square, last year they raised 26,700 plus meals.
I saw that and I was just blown away.
So they're doing, and their goal this,
and it doesn't cost anybody anything.
It doesn't cost anything more than you just paying for your meal.
You go to these restaurants, you have your meal,
That's
you
it.
tell them you're a member of the LVIP Dining Club, and they donate, and they usually have specials too.
Absolutely.
You get a free dessert or something like that. So it's really, and that's the kind of thing that in answer to your question, that we like to try to promote.
Yeah,
so
I like that.
It's at the Crave Restaurant up in downtown Summerlin, right up by Red Rock, from 6 to 8:30. There'll be raffles. Cash and I will be emceeing the raffle portion to help raise the money, and we enjoy that. So check it out, lvipdining.com, and it's free to join LVIP Dining. As they like to say, their motto is fighting hunger with hunger.
Yeah.
I had to think about that for a second because it started coming out and it didn't sound right, but it is
awesome
right.
Job. Awesome job.
So great job, Evan and Layla Green, for doing that. All right. Before I forget, next week on this very show, we're going to be talking with Joseph Peroni and Heidi Mancini from Grief to Relief, which airs here on Thursday at 1 o'clock, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome
Lawrence
show.
works the board for that show, so that they'll be our guests next week. Okay. All right, Jason, we've given you nothing but softballs for the first 45 minutes of the show, all right?
All right.
Now, your crony's not here to support you for the real tough questions, and these are questions that really will lead some insight into the listening audience, more about you as a person than as just the financial guy.
All right.
All right?
I have one technical question before we get into
right
this.
ahead.
Okay. What is the current exchange rate for a Cougar Rand as opposed to a dollar?
Well, I don't know about the exact rate for that. What do you think?
What do you want it to be?
Good answer. Good answer.
What do you want it to be? All right, here you go. You ready?
Sorry, go ahead.
Question number 1. Who's your favorite actor?
Oh, my favorite actor is Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. He just turned 99.
No.
Oh,
that's Kirk.
Oh, Kirk. I'm
Douglas.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Michael Douglas.
But his dad just turned 98 or 99.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think he's. Yeah, I saw that.
You saw it was on Facebook.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
God bless him. But no. All right, Michael Douglas. Very good. Who's your favorite actress?
I like a lot of them. I probably would say, boy, Meryl Streep is really good.
We get a lot of Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
She's right up there at the top of the list for everybody.
If it's not her, we get Sandra Bullock too.
Yep.
But Meryl Streep, we get a lot of Meryl Streep.
She's such a good actress. She's been an actress for so long.
What's your favorite Meryl Streep movie?
I like. I just like the the performance she did in Silkwood, from the beginning,
right?
That was
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's just so many more after that.
And she runs the gamut. She's not afraid to take on a role. I mean, Mamma Mia, and then she just did that movie,
Ricky and the Flash.
Ricky and the Flash. That was her latest movie.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I saw that.
She's not afraid to run the gamut.
You know what was cool is that was her daughter.
Yes,
That started
in that
out
movie.
with
That's
her.
correct.
That I thought was awesome. You can see that. Anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Moving right along.
All right. What is your favorite all-time movie that you have to drop everything that you're doing in order to see?
I think I would say, well, there's so many. I mean, there's only one?
Just one. Give me your top one. All right.
Okay, I got it. It's Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is just one of those. Rosebud. You just, I don't know how he did it. How did he do that? How did he make a movie when he pretty much did everything?
Yep.
Orson Welles,
Right.
he produced it. He certainly I think he directed it.
He directed it, starred in
he
it.
definitely, obviously, was a star. I don't know how he did it, but it's still, if you watch that movie, that movie would be contemporary today.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, it would work. Absolutely.
Well, and Orson Welles, I mean, he was bigger than life with what he did. I mean, no question. No question.
And he will drink no wine before it's time.
No.
What's your favorite genre of music?
I like real classic rock and roll.
Okay.
I really love that. But I also like classical music.
So also running the gamut on both ends.
Oh, big time.
What's the last song you listened to that you jammed out to?
I jammed out to.
In your car at a traffic light.
I remember just last night I was leaving church, and it really was like appropriate at the same time. It was like I don't know if this is exactly the name, but it was that song. I fell in love with the preacher man. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Who sings that? Who is it? Dusty Springfield.
Son of a preacher man.
Son of a preacher man.
Yep.
Could you play us a little of that, Lawrence?
Look that up for us. We'll play that on the out, Lawrence.
The only one.
That's a cool song, man.
What is your favorite car of all time that you wish you owned in your garage?
I would say the Lexus 460.
Okay.
A hybrid.
The hybrid version, okay.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. All right, a couple more, and we'll get you off the hook for this. If you were not doing what you're doing in the accounting field and CPA financial field, what industry would you like to try?
I would be in the personal fitness.
Really?
I would be in like the physical therapy, physical fitness field.
Okay. Do you work out yourself, your own schedule? Or?
I do, but I should be better at what I do.
More diligent.
Yeah. I mean, there's been periods when it just hasn't been as it should be.
And the next couple of months, it's not going to be easy for you. He'll have his little dumbbells under his desk while he's filing.
Hey, you got to do it wherever they are.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, 3 more questions. First, last of the second to the end. Favorite curse word?
Favorite curse word is obviously the F word.
Okay. All right.
Now, you can say that, I believe, on this
You can say
show.
it on internet radio. You can say fuck all over the place here. It's fine. This is internet.
I'll have you say it for me.
All right, so on the flip side to that, what's your least favorite that you may hear that just kind of gets your blood curled?
The least favorite cuss word?
Yeah.
I don't think I have any.
That just send you on the edge. Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I have any.
All right. So, all right, that's cool. Last question for you. When the day comes that you're called upstairs and whoever you believe in greets you at the gates of heaven, what is it that you'd like them to say to you on your way in?
You were able to make a difference, and in a humanistic way.
Very good.
So that was all I wanted for you. So that was good.
Well done. Well done. You survived my questions.
Well, there you go.
Jason, we thank you for taking time to come in today and be on Stars with us. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me. It went by fast. It went by so fast.
I know. When you're sitting on the other end, it does go by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It goes by even faster when you're the host.
Okay, well, you got about a minute and a half. What would you like to tell people about your show? What is the one thing that you would like them to know about Financial Fridays that you feel is most important?
Oh, Financial Fridays is really a great show. It's a connector. It connects people not just in Las Vegas but nationally across the world, even the globe, to get vital financial information that can affect your life in a positive way. I think we're the concierge of your money by improving your finances, decreasing your taxes, and increasing your wealth. And not only that, we have a lot of fun doing it. We have a great network, and we're bringing a lot of people together in our community to do that very thing for you. That's
believe it
in a nutshell.
Believe it or not, even I've learned some things from your show, from listening to the show. So
if he can learn anything from the show,
anything,
you know you're
I'm
doing something right. So that's a good thing. And we are happy to have you on our network. We're
Absolutely.
delighted that you're part of our family of shows here. Friday at 3 p.m., Financial Fridays with Jason and Leonard and Scott, the three-headed hosting monster, to talk about all your financial support that you could ever want to know. We thank you for tuning in and listening. We're now going to head out on a little dusty Springfield just for Jason. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week on Stars of VANR.